There's a specific feeling you get right before you agree to something you never wanted to agree to. Your chest tightens a little, your thoughts go slow and foggy. And some part of you, the part that's still awake, quietly asks, how did I end up here? Most people call that being indecisive. Psychology calls it something else entirely. That fog isn't a flaw in your judgment, it's a symptom. It's what your nervous system does when someone else is steering. Because manipulation almost never looks like manipulation. It looks like love. It looks like logic. It looks like a favor you can't refuse without feeling like a bad person. By the end of this, you'll know the 8 signs that someone is working you in real time. Not the ones you spot weeks later in hindsight, but the ones happening in the conversation you're having right now. And then 3 ways to shut it down. Without raising your voice, without a fight, without ever having to prove a thing. Here's what makes this so hard to see. Manipulation isn't a personality type. It's a behavior. And it exists everywhere that one human being wants something from another. The charming coworker who always needs a favor. The parent who sighs instead of asking. The partner who quietly keeps score. The friend who only calls when the story is about them. Most of these people aren't villains. Some of them don't even know they're doing it. That's exactly what makes the pattern so slippery. You keep scanning for a bad person when what you should be looking for is a bad structure. Psychologist Robert Cialdini spent years studying compliance professionals, salespeople, recruiters, con artists, and he found something genuinely unsettling. Influence works on almost everyone, almost every time, because it targets automatic mental shortcuts rather than conscious reasoning. You don't get talked into things. You get triggered into them. We're going to walk through 8 signs, and they escalate. The first few are easy to catch once you know the shape of them. The last few are the ones that have almost certainly already worked on you at some point. Let's start with the one hiding in plain sight. Sign 1. Everything is suddenly urgent. Watch the clock, not the content. A manipulator's request almost always arrives with a deadline stapled to it. Decide tonight. I need an answer now. If you have to think about it, forget it. Behavioral scientists call this scarcity pressure. Cialdini's research showed that when people believe an option is about to vanish, they evaluate it far less carefully and want it considerably more. Here's the key. Time pressure doesn't change the offer at all. It changes your access to your own reasoning. Under a deadline, your brain hands the wheel from deliberate thought to instinct. So when someone rushes you, notice what's actually being done to you. A genuine request survives you sleeping on it. Only a rigged one needs you deciding while you're rattled. But urgency is only the surface. The next one goes after something far more personal. Your sense of what actually happened. Sign 2. Your memory keeps getting corrected. You bring up something they said. They tell you it never happened. Not angrily, patiently, almost kindly. You're remembering that wrong. That's not what I said. You're being sensitive again. Psychiatrist Robin Stern, who brought the clinical study of gaslighting into the mainstream, describes it as a slow transfer of authority. Over time, the target stops trusting their own perception and begins outsourcing reality to the other person. It never starts with one enormous lie. It starts with small corrections you accept because arguing about them feels petty. Here's how you tell the difference. Healthy disagreement is about interpretation. We both remember the event, we just read it differently. Manipulation attacks the event itself. And if you keep walking away from conversations less certain about what you actually experienced, that isn't confusion, that's the result. That sign goes after your memory. This next one goes after something even harder to defend. Your right to feel anything at all. Sign 3. You feel guilty, and you can't find the crime. Something is wrong. They're quiet, short, visibly wounded. And when you ask, you get, I'm fine, delivered in a tone that unmistakably means you did something. So you start searching your own behavior for the offense, apologizing for a charge that was never actually filed. Therapist Susan Forward called this emotional blackmail, and she named the machinery behind it: fear, obligation, and guilt. FOG for short. It's a state where you comply not because you agree, but because the discomfort of not complying has become unbearable. Here's the nuance almost everyone misses. Sometimes the hurt is completely real. Manipulation isn't about whether the feeling is genuine. It's about whether that feeling is being handed to you as a bill you're expected to pay. Now, here's where it gets more complicated, because the next sign doesn't feel bad at all. It feels wonderful. Sign 4. The praise arrives just before the ask. I've never met anyone like you. You're the only one who really gets it. You're not like the rest of them. It's intoxicating. And it is almost always followed, within days, by a request. Researchers studying influence call this ingratiation, and it runs on the reciprocity principle. When someone gives us something, and attention and admiration absolutely count as something, we feel an automatic pull to give something back. The gift quietly creates a debt you never agreed to carry. So watch the timing, not the compliment. Real admiration is unhurried and unconditional. Strategic admiration is an invoice with a warm face on it. If you're the kind of person who actually thinks about this stuff, who wants to genuinely understand how people work rather than just assume the worst about everyone, and you're still here, that tells me something about you. It would mean a lot if you hit subscribe. We put out videos like this every week. Real psychology explained in a way that actually makes sense for real people. Sign 5. Your world quietly gets smaller. This one almost never announces itself. Nobody ever says stop seeing your friends. Instead, every single time you come back from seeing them, there's tension waiting. A comment, a mood, a small story about something one of them supposedly said about you. Social psychologists call that second part triangulation, bringing a third party into a two-person conflict to manufacture leverage. It works precisely because you can't verify it, so doubt does the labor for them. Slowly, the very people who would have told you something was wrong start to feel expensive to keep. And here's the common misread. People assume isolation is dramatic. It isn't. It's just the steady accumulation of small reasons that make connection feel like more trouble than it's worth. Here's the part that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, and it matters more than all of them. Sign 6. They're inconsistent, and you've become addicted to it. Warm one day, distant the next. And instead of pulling away, you find yourself thinking about them more, working harder, waiting for the good version to come back. This is intermittent reinforcement, and it's the most powerful conditioning schedule ever documented. BF. Skinner demonstrated that a behavior rewarded unpredictably is dramatically more persistent than one rewarded every single time. It's the exact mechanism that makes slot machines work. Unpredictable warmth doesn't weaken attachment, it supercharges it. This is the hidden cost nobody warns you about. It's not that you can't see the pattern. It's that the pattern has already trained you to chase it. The confusion isn't a side effect. The confusion is the hook. But this is the root underneath every other sign on the list. Sign 7. When you raise a problem, you become the problem. You bring up something they did. Within about a minute, the conversation is somehow about your tone, your history, your sensitivity. You walked in with a concern, and you walk out defending your character. Psychologist Jennifer Freyd named this exact pattern, DARVO. Deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. The person who caused the harm denies it, attacks the credibility of whoever raised it, and then repositions themselves as the one actually being mistreated. Freyd's research found it is remarkably effective. Observers, and often the targets themselves, end up shifting blame toward the person who spoke up. And that is the root of everything on this list. The goal was never to win the argument. The goal is to make raising the argument cost more than staying quiet. Which brings us to the last one, and honestly, the most important. Sign 8. Your body knew before you did. The tightening stomach before their name appears on your screen. The sentences you rehearse before you walk into the room. The wave of relief when they cancel. You've probably explained every bit of it away as ordinary stress. Neuroscientist Stephen Porges describes something called neuroception, your nervous system's ability to evaluate safety far below the level of conscious thought. Your body reads tone, timing, and micro-expression considerably faster than your reasoning ever could. It isn't being dramatic, it's filing a report, which means something important. You were never actually fooled. Some part of you has been keeping accurate records this entire time. You just needed permission to read them. So what do you actually do while it's happening? 3 moves. None of them require you to prove anything, accuse anyone, or win a single argument. Shut it down. 1. Slow the clock. The single most effective counter to pressure is delay. Not refusal, delay. I'm not deciding tonight. I'll get back to you tomorrow. That's the whole move. It works because nearly every pressure tactic depends on you answering while your reasoning is offline. Remove the deadline and you remove the leverage. And watch what happens next, because it's diagnostic. A reasonable person accepts it without friction. Manipulation escalates. You just ran a test, and they answered it for you. Shut it down, too. Keep your own record. The counter to having your memory rewritten is not arguing about it. You will lose that argument, because that argument is their home field. Instead, write things down. Dates, actual sentences, what was agreed and when. Stern's work on gaslighting is clear that recovery begins the moment a person re-anchors to their own account of events. You aren't building a case to present to anyone. You're building a floor to stand on. And once you have it, when someone insists that never happened, you no longer need them to agree. Shut it down. 3. Answer the pressure, not the content. This is the one that changes everything. When you're being worked, do not debate the point. Name the process instead, calmly, without a single accusation. I notice I'm being asked to decide quickly. I want to come back to what I actually raised. Psychologists who study boundary setting consistently find that calm repetition, holding one simple position without offering new justification, works far better than argument, because it gives the other person no fresh material to attack. Manipulation needs your engagement to run. Take away the fuel and the entire machine stalls. So the next time you're in a conversation and the fog rolls in, the tight chest, the slow thoughts, the guilt with no origin, you'll know exactly what you're looking at. You're not indecisive. You're not too sensitive. You're not imagining any of it. You're a person with a perfectly functioning alarm system who has been slowly talked out of trusting it. Manipulation only works in the dark, and not the dark of the other person's intentions, the dark of your own uncertainty. The moment you can name the shape of the thing, most of its power is already gone. You don't have to expose anybody. You don't have to be right out loud. You just have to stop volunteering. If you want to go deeper on why some people sense this instantly while others never see it coming, I put together a video on the psychology of people who read others without any proof at all. It's right here when you're ready.